Yeah, so just a comment, we're going to talk about the budget first so everybody can hear what's going on in line, and then you'll be able to talk. Don't really want to do double, right? So you kind of have to-
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm getting hand off the turn. So we're going to go to item number 11.
Okay, so item number 3.
It's a catch-22.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah. So after last week's meeting, we went back to the budget to see where we could make some changes. What we did find was that the salary information that we had worked on prior to the last week's meeting, we had some initial calculations that we reviewed over the weekend before the meeting, but unfortunately didn't get inputted into the budget. And so that change was about a $500,000 difference in salaries from the ambulance staff. We also went back and looked at all the positions as far as talking with our chief director to see what truly was needed this first year as we get going. And we did eliminate some positions as well as change some positions as far as what their responsibilities would be. But starting in the revenues, the MC tax revenue, that is our property taxes. So we initially had presented information last week with property tax at the tax rate that had been published in the paper. Since then, because we were able to reduce our costs, we were able to move that tax rate back down to
0.0496.
0.0496 instead of the previous published rate, which is actually lower than the last year rate, which was at 5 cents. Our sales tax revenue, that is based on the sales tax component that we get straight from the state comptroller on sales that are made within our county. And then the EMS revenue, that number changed as well. We did take time, at least George and myself took some time to speak with our fire chief this last weekend as well, just to get some input from his standpoint, not just on services, but on his experience rate with, how they service the community and their revenue. One of the things we had done to try to make sure that we had a balanced budget was we were using a collection rate. So we do not collect our own billing on the ambulance services. We are using a third-party provider that's going to be doing all our billing and collections. They publish a 90-something collection rate, 94% collection rate, but again, I have my own fears of what that really means. And talking to the chief, it's 94% of what is billable. So if you give somebody a service that doesn't have any kind of insurance, well, they don't consider that as part of not being collectible because it wasn't billable. So we reduced our collection rate down to 70% of what our services should generate. We average about 200 calls a month, and we are told that the per service fee, the per charge for service is about $1,000. So that's how we got to this EMS revenue. Going into the expenditures, again,
Excuse
AT&T.
me, can everybody introduce yourself and what position you are?
Okay. My name is Juan Zamora. I'm the treasurer.
My name is George Morales. I'm the assistant treasurer.
I'm Viola Potter, I'm the vice president.
Yeah, I'm Tony Martin, I'm the president.
And I'm again Ken Campbell, the attorney for the bank.
Thank you.
Going into the expenditures, and these are things that we'll evaluate as we get into the year with the chief, making some calls around to see if we can get some better rates and similar service. But AT&T, that is the internet to the facility, that is internet to our devices on the ambulances, that is internet to cell phones or any other devices that we need to service the community. Our city of Devine, that's our water and sewer, of course. Energy is our electric. And then, I'm sorry, that's cut off. Okay.
That's the fire.
The fire alarm, and then West Texas. Between all those, our utilities add up to about 26,000. Going into the operational side of the organization, we must have a medical director. Now, they're not an employee, they're a contracted service, and that is running about 36,000. We plan on purchasing an additional ambulance so that we'll have 3 ambulances. The third ambulance right now is going to be a backup in case one unit goes down for any reason, and it also will be looked at to be utilized for a third unit to be used during peak hours. Whether that be through volunteers that run that unit with coordination with the fire department, or whether that's if we find that we have additional funds in the budget to pay part-time employees. Yes,
Have you already got 2 ambulances?
we do have 2 ambulances.
Where do we get the money for those?
It's out of our budget from last year.
Out of this budget or
Well, they're
last
leased.
year's?
They're leased, so we paid so many years.
So we never owned them.
Yeah, we'll own them eventually, but I don't remember the lease terms right now.
And you were going to buy one more
Yes.
instead of 2? Is that the used one that we're getting out of?
Correct.
And that one's 83,000.
85.
85.
Again, we have the leases for the other units, and we also are leasing equipment for the ambulance units themselves, vehicle maintenance, fuel. Fuel is a little hard because it's our first year, not knowing what, 1, gas prices will be, 2, not knowing just from a trend standpoint what our usage rate is. So we did budget conservatively high there just to make sure we had enough to facilitate for the year. We need our EMS supplies for the ambulances, uniforms, training for our employees, as well as travel and training for our directors and commissioners or board of trustees. We have some miscellaneous services like lawn care and just equipment, not equipment, but in case something happens with our doors that we need to service them. And then we also have equipment purchases that we are anticipating for the units themselves to carry. We have, and total operations cost is $440,336. And then we have office expenses. Again, we're using a third-party company to collect for the emergency services provided. They charge a percentage of collections. And so we're basing it off the revenue we said we would generate from them, and their fee comes in at about $117,000. We have licenses that we have to pay for. We have computer softwares that we need to pay for, not just for office, but for the units themselves, and other softwares that help us with the different aspects of the operation. And then we have background and drug testing for employees, advertising in the newspaper as required by statute, and then insurances for the vehicle and building. office supplies, and then we have miscellaneous expenditures just for the unknown of about 2,000, and then public relations, which we set up I don't know what it's called, but the Blue Bonnet in Natalia, where we provide promotional things that we give out to the community, and then subscription fees that we pay for. Total office expenditures came out to $149,725. And then we get into salaries and benefits, which of course is the majority of our expenditures. Administrative staff, total administrative staff wages that we budget for is $125,000. Ambulatory staff, our paramedics, and then I guess the techs, our basic techs, is $1,270,464. And then taxes and benefits for all employees is $228,684. That includes, again, taxes and insurances. And then a retirement, where we contribute to a retirement, $50,819. Our total salary and benefits came out to $1,674,966. Total expenditures, well, I'll go back to total revenues. So when we had our total revenues added up to $2,472,951. And total expenditures was $2,291,027, leaving us with a small surplus of about $181,924. Again, being a startup organization, it's very challenging to project accurately this first year because there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of startup costs that we may not have thought of. And that's the reason why we left some surplus in there, was for the unexpected, or things that we just may have not considered going through this process. That's the budget.
Can I ask a question to clarify?
You really can't.
Okay.
If you ask it, I may be able to answer.
Pardon me?
Find out. If you ask it, I may be able to answer, but you can't.
So in here you have the operation rate of .0785. You stated that you weren't going to go up on the rate was going to be at .04. So I'm trying to clarify which number it actually is.
The tax rate will be
Yeah.
0.0495.
96.
96, I'm sorry.
Go back down.
Which is different than what's in here?
Correct.
Yes. The way the law works is you have to publish a proposed tax rate. And then you have to have a public hearing on that proposed tax rate. It has to be no earlier than 5 days before it's put in the paper, or 7 days before it's on your website. Okay, you can always go lower than your proposed tax rate. You just cannot go higher without starting the whole process over here with the notices and publications and public hearings. So we had already proposed 7.85 cents.
That's a de minimis rate.
No, it's not. The de minimis rate, yeah, it's the 785. The VAR, the voter approval rate is .0496. The no new revenue rate, which theoretically gives us the same amount of money as we made last year, is .0470.
For those that don't really follow the numbers, that .0496 is going to be changed to .07485.
No, sir.
You're going to be added to it.
No, sir.
What's it going to do then?
The de minimis rate is the highest rate.
I understand that, but you're talking about the voter approved rate of .0496.
Correct.
And you're talking about the proposed tax rate of .0785, whatever it is.
That's what's proposed.
Right.
And it's a two-step process. You propose, do all your publications and notices, have your public hearing, and then you can adopt anything from what you proposed down. From the .785.
But the tax rate is going to go from .0496. You're going to add that to it.
No.
Stay there.
It's going to be .0496 if that's what they vote for.
We're looking at staying to the same as last year, basically.
Okay. All right.
I'm not, we're going to increase this year, or next year, or whenever they do it.
open it up to community, citizen comment.
We need to do the action.
I thought we were going to do the public hearing and then open it to comment.
You want to adopt this budget? And you want to back to the budget?
No, I'd say let them comment, then
Okay. All right.
Jerry Best,
Yes, sir.
what would you like to say, sir?
in your 3 minutes.
Well, this is a much better meeting than the one from last week. Earlier this year, there's a small little piece of paper about y'all going to start your own service. I didn't see it. Not a whole lot of folks saw it. There was no plan mentioned and no public meetings to discuss it, maybe offer some input. Your proposed increases by ESD number 4, you're going to propose an increase. County's proposing an increase. Insurance companies are going to go up on their rates. Can't read my writing. Home insurance is going up. Rent's going up. Everything's going up. Groceries, fuel. Some of it mandated by state law, such as vehicle insurance. And who knows what the hell is going to happen after November the 5th, excuse my French, when they try to tax you on unrealized capital gain taxes, which is basically, I don't know for sure, I haven't talked, but it sounds like they're going to tax me on the new appraisal rate, which always goes up. Now, if y'all go through with the tax rate increase like you're planning on, like it's on the agenda, then our only recourse is to file a petition. And that takes about 300 signatures. It'd take me a couple of weeks to get 300 signatures, but these folks here in the room probably get it before noon tomorrow. That would put it on the May ballot. And if it doesn't come back in your favor in May, whatever you've collected has to go back. And according to the tax assessor collector, it's going to create a little bit of a storm in her office, but she'll do it. So I don't know why you can't pump the brakes on this thing and visit with the current provider that we have, tweak the contract, sit down and have some meetings with the public instead of coming out here and we're fixing to do this and y'all can't do anything about it. Well, the petition is the only thing we can do. Now, that being said, if this happens, we do this. If this doesn't happen, we don't do this. So thank you. It's my Saturday and the Astros are playing. Thank you.
Greg Atkins.
So, I can ask you questions, right? Not them? Okay. So, again, just for clarification, with that new tax rate coming out, there's not going to be a change in the tax if they adopted what was just said, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It'd be even less than their tax rate now.
And so according to Texas Code 775, they have a right, the board has the right to decide whether it's using third party or whether they do it themselves. The voters pretty much only have the right to vote on the tax rate itself, correct? Yes. So essentially, if there's no change in the tax rate, the board decides what they're going to do. Pretty much the argument is done there, right? If I'm correct?
This has been discussed. There's been like 3 or 4 articles in the paper, I believe, and this has been discussed since well into last year.
Okay, all right. So with that said, that makes what I was here for pretty easy then. With you guys changing the tax rate, not much to talk about. I would say I want to talk about 2 things. One, the conversation of the third truck. That has anybody who, and most people obviously do because look at the room you have, anybody that reads Devine News, it has been about a 3-year discussion about how that third truck is needed. Okay, that's why I was going to be for the tax increase. Glad you were able to do that. Great job. Okay, way to do your job. But that third truck is needed. The run volumes has climbed, the wait times on ambulance have climbed, and it's not really anybody's fault other than the fact that we're 30 minutes from any hospital. So it doesn't matter who the provider is, we're too far away from any hospital. You know, most of these calls come in 3s, you know that. So, you know, once the other 2 ambulances are gone, you're waiting an hour before a bus gets here. And even if we call mutual aid, you're talking 30 to 45 minute wait. So getting that third bus on is a vital aspect, not just as a backup, but to actually have it running. We would work with you however you would like. I heard it mentioned about using volunteers. We can discuss that. Obviously, that would have to go to our board and all that stuff, but we can absolutely discuss that. That's definitely something that can happen, but that third bus needs to be in service to provide service. The last thing I would ask is that, and I know you guys can't respond to this, and I don't want you to, but I would actually stand with Jerry Beck, who is pushing for there to be a cap on the 65 and older homestead. I would ask that on the next agenda, you put that on the agenda and discuss freezing the taxes on the 65 and older and the disabled so that we're not taxing people out of their homes. If we do have to increase going forward, that those that are on a fixed income don't get taxed out of their homes and don't lose their place.
And some of that is mandatory by state law.
Sure.
65 freeze, there's nothing these guys have to do. It's just done by state law. The disabled and that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Cynthia Sutton Foods.
Salt and Buzz. Okay, so I have no problem with it if it makes sense, okay? But I do have concern, and I'm bookkeeper since 1977, not a certified public accountant, but I know books, okay? So when you look at y'all's profit and loss statements that y'all put on the web as your official profit and loss statements, when you go to add up some of the columns, they don't add up. So you're leaving out the sales tax and your total balance. Is there any reason for that? That's one question, okay?
There is
So-
because it's new and sales tax is extremely volatile and you don't want to budget for it because we don't know what
This
we're
is
going
not
to
in the
do.
budget, sir. This is on y'all's, or their financial statements. Every month, their financial statements,
I understand.
okay? And so on their financial statements, it's supposed to be what's currently happening right now, not a budget. So on all the financial statements, for example, May, y'all have a balance of $9,849, but when you add up your balances in your accounts, you're leaving out that sales tax. So it's not correct.
It's not budgeted. Right now, it's not budgeted. We're trying to determine what that amount will be.
Sir, I'm not talking about budget. I'm talking about your financial statements. When y'all sit here and say approve, yes, we approve the financial statements, the treasurer's report. Okay, the
It's
treasurer's
posted
report.
online, Ken.
Okay?
Posted online.
The treasurer's report, which y'all post online, should reflect the actual balances in the checking accounts and in the different accounts.
Okay.
And so your balances is not. Okay? So that's a concern for me when your balance, your financial statements is not accurate. You know, that's a concern for me. And so if you go through year, month after month after month, that sales tax is not being added to it whatsoever, okay? There's several of the columns that when you have expenses, you add them up, it's not adding up to the total. So I don't know what program y'all are using for bookkeeping or accounting, but there's mistakes in it, okay? So that's a concern to me, especially when you get ready to take over almost $3 million budget, that there's already mistakes in what you're doing now. That's my concern.
Ms. Cargine.
I just signed it. I didn't,
Okay.
I have no agenda item.
Kenny Lawler. Claude Brown.
No questions right now.
Heather
Yonta.
Yonta.
Okay, so everyone seems to agree a third ambulance is necessary. I've heard that from multiple people. You just indicated that we've needed it for 3 years. My question is, if it's been so imperative, why have we not just asked for one in 3 years rather than jumping through all these hoops and taking on all this money and going through all this? For 3 years, you've said you've needed it. I'm pretty sure they would have probably worked with that on them. Why wouldn't one ask for a second? This operation will run 2 to 3 ambulances. I'm pretty familiar with business. That's not a really large business. What research was done to come up with the salaries, which I saw as $65,000, $90,000, $100,000, and so on. I know our city administrator makes, $120,000 a year, and he runs an entire city. Finally, Jason Miller and Greg Atkinson on Facebook this week made a bunch of assertions that concerned me and a bunch of other people. One, quote, "If your insurance doesn't pay, there will be no personal collections." Sorry, there are no personal collections. Quote, "Tax revenue will offset the cost of medical supplies, equipment, and staffing." Quote, "We are not going after our own tax-paying district citizens who already do not have the means to cover these expenses." Another quote, "Tax revenue helps an agency make up the costs." So will your billing company know not to bill their citizens? Because we've been told repeatedly on Facebook, Insurance doesn't cover it, you're not going to get a bill. If you're uninsured, you're not going to get a bill. Which brings me to another problem. I pay a lot for insurance. Why should I also be paying taxes to pay people who refuse to pay insurance? Have you done a cost analysis or study on how much uninsured and underinsured patients in this area are going to cost the taxpayers? Us? This invites abuse. It is unfair to taxpayers and people who pay a lot for insurance, and it's just not good business. You're taking business from a good company, you're putting yourself in business in competition with them, and you're saying that you're going to use the taxpayer funds as a crutch. When are you going to have to increase your taxes to cover all the extra costs that y'all are saying? I have had to call the ambulance 5 times in the past few years. After insurance, I have paid between $3,000 and $8,000 per ambulance ride. So are y'all saying y'all are just going to eat all that? If so, thank you. But I don't think it's right to every other taxpayer here that y'all are saying you are going to foot the bill for people who don't want to pay their insurance, don't want to be insured, and just, well, great, the ambulance will take me and I'm never going to get a bill. This is not good business. You're going to be bankrupt in a year. We're going to be back with Allegiance. I wish y'all would have just asked them for a 3rd ambulance.
Yes, sir.
So I looked at your budget from last year. Last year you paid Allegiance EMS $212,000 for 2 ambulances. You could put 5 ambulances on today, right now, for $535,000. It's been talked about for years. You've had the money. The board decided they didn't want to go that route, and I don't know why. The citizens here have all been complaining for years about sitting and waiting for an ambulance. It's not these guys' fault. When you got 2 ambulances in a district covering 2,400 runs a year, you're going to run out of ambulances. Y'all known that the resolve for this is to put more ambulances on. But now, you've decided that you're going to do it yourself with the same amount of ambulances that you have today. And the idea is that there possibly is going to be a 3rd truck man, maybe. You haven't purchased it yet, so we get the same service for 10 or 15 times the cost that we are today. The other deal is, you're talking about almost $1.7 million in collections. That number, you've pulled out of the air. That's not there. Insurance companies pay 50% of the bill, at most, if they pay. They didn't pay a bill that my wife went to the hospital in because Allegiance is a 3rd-party service. So if you start eating all those bills, that 1.6 is not going to be near $1 million. What are you going to do when you don't collect 1.6 to make your budget right? You're going to come back to the citizens and say, we need more money. It's time to raise taxes again. So I don't understand. I mean, the concept is good. I understand that you want to do it yourself, but maybe do it in a phase-in where you bring 1 ambulance in, and 2 or 3 years you bring another ambulance in. You know Google is down the road. They're going to build a super center down there. 5 years from now, you're going to have millions of dollars. But what you're asking today is for the citizens of this community to burden the expense of doing something that you want to do right now today instead of waiting for that to happen. So again, today, with the budget that you currently have, without doing any increases, you could put 5 ambulances on right now today to protect this community for $535,000, according to the numbers that are in your budget. And you're not doing it. You want to go with 2 ambulances because you want your own service. And I was here. I'm part of what Devine EMS was as a volunteer. I understand wanting to bring it back here. But again, 2 ambulances, everybody's going to be waiting for an ambulance, and you're going to be dependent on mutual aid from other agencies. You're in the same boat that you are today at a greatly increased cost.
Maybe Virginia, Vianney Hill?
No questions.
Somebody, Roger.
Roger, Ms. Rogers, maybe Janisa, 109 Dixon.
Robert.
Same one. That's your husband or?
Henry Salinas.
He left.
Diana Rayborn.
I have a couple of comments. One, of course, is this budget, is it for 2 ambulances? Because you guys are talking 2 and then you're talking 3.
It's two ambulances.
So what's it gonna be for-
We are purchasing the third. And we have surplus to man, probably part-time that surplus.
Probably?
Again, we are a brand new entity, trying to figure out where everything will fall in line. So the first couple of months, we'll know better as far as, are we collecting as far as for billing services.
But when I'm looking at this, I see sold for 50,000. What is that going to get us in the mix? Is that?
It covers the 2 cardiac monitors, the 2 cardiac devices, and the 2 ventilators.
What about the third one?
The third one, then we can add to that lease agreement.
Do we at this moment right now have 2 ambulances ready to go, stocked, manned? And where did we get the money to do that again?
It was in last year's budget.
Last year's budget? Okay. I don't remember seeing it in last year's budget that you guys handed out. Was there a different budget?
It was on the website.
Can I have all my questions answered also? No, I mean, I'm great, that's awesome. I would like all mine answered also. Can I? Because I can go back over them.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Chief can answer them. Some commissioners, we're not going to.
I'd like to know why an ambulance from Allegiance, the third ambulance, hasn't been requested. If it has, I'd like to know when, and documentation would be awesome. That was the first question.
Why don't we do this? You can go talk to Chief right now if you need to.
And everybody else can't hear the question. Well, then I wanted to know where y'all came up with your salaries, and I'd like y'all to all confirm everything that Jason Miller and Greg Atkinson said about nobody's going to be getting a bill, that all of it's going to be billed to insurance and citizens will not have to pay anything. I want confirmation from y'all that that's the plan.
The plan is that we will not collect directly from our community.
Okay, so they were lying on Facebook telling people that citizens will not be responsible for paying for their own
I just
bills.
said we wouldn't collect from our community.
That's not exactly what you said.
No,
I think that we
these-
have to-
Exactly what I said last time.
No,
I
that's
said we will
meaning that we
not
would have to
collect.
pay what insurance didn't pay.
No, that's not what I said. I said
Go
we
back
would
to your
not
minutes.
collect. I said we would
Take
not
minutes.
collect
But
from the
service.
community.
Chief, we have a billing matrix with Allegiance right now as to what they bill for, correct?
Allegiance does, we don't know what that is.
And to think that Allegiance doesn't have losses because they don't collect
But
from
I
certain
mean,
individuals.
it was asserted repeatedly by Greg and by, Mr. Miller, repeatedly that you're not going to get a bill. If you're a citizen, you're not going to get a bill. Now, if you're not a citizen, they're going to go after you for the money. They repeated this. But if you're a citizen, you're not going to have to pay anything. So that's true.
That's exactly what I said. We would not bill our community.
No. That's not different than we don't have to pay for the bill. He said that for whatever is not collected from citizens, because they're not going to collect from citizens, he said taxpayers will pay the equipment, the medical supplies, and for the personnel. Taxpayers will fund that. You're not going to get a bill if you call us. That was what was asserted. So if you're doing doublespeak, you're just saying you're not going to collect it. They need to go back online and issue a correction that, yes, you are going to get paid. You're
I
gonna
think
get
we're saying
billed.
the same thing, you're just misunderstanding.
No, we're not. Does anybody not understand me?
So this is the way it will work.
Okay, we got to stop.
Yes.
We got to stop this.
This is
This is
done.
an Open Meetings Act.
Fiction or
So
violence.
not do this.
I will meet with you after the meeting if you'd like it.
No, I want it on Facebook because they promised a
can
lot
put
of
me on
people
Facebook.
they're getting free ambulance service.
Well,
That's not exactly
One last
correct.
question.
Since they have
Will the third party bill us if not you?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
They will bill insurance.
Or Medicare.
Yeah, insurance.
And you guarantee to give that to us in writing?
No,
Third party work?
no,
Okay. All right.
this is exactly why we gotta be careful about this.
Sure.
Y'all can go talk about it.
No, it's all over Facebook. That's what people
Well, y'all
think.
can
They're
go
not
talk
gonna
about
bill.
that, okay? Y'all can go talk about
Well,
it.
I would think you're responsible for the claims that they're being made on Facebook.
Your employees representative of you.
They're representing the department on Facebook saying, you are not going to be billed.
Jason?
Jason, well then Jason has, he reasserted it several times.
Okay, well, that's between you and Jason. Keep it, I can say.
What y'all are doing.
Why did you ever figure out why they just let you know?
Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. You have citizens comment. We have the public hearing that's going right now with citizens comment. Let's keep moving on. I probably overindulged in letting questions get in.
But it says on the agenda here, it says we can't.
Yeah.
No, you get involved in discussions with you. That's a violation of the open meetings act. So we're trying to answer your questions as best we can, but it's.
You're saying you cannot back up what you're saying.
No.
Yes, you are.
We will formally put something on our website to what
It's gonna
our
happen.
billing will be, so that you can read it on our website. Is that adequate?
Only if they're going to go back and tell all those people that they just told that they're not going to have to pay anything because they're citizens, sure. That's my problem.
Next.
Sometimes we're gonna give this letter.
Yes.
That's right, we do Facebook.
How can you trust them on? Look what they usually.
Where is the tax rate for the new houses, the new construction? Where's that money?
Eileen Montgomery?
It's in the calculation.
Ms. Montgomery?
It's in the calculations? Okay.
Ms. Montgomery? Ms. Montgomery, Ms. Tommy?
Oh.
Phyllis Martin?
No question.
Anthony Bowman?
Over here. So, Patrick kind of stole my spiel. But I do have one question. What's going to be the difference this time around from the last two times that we tried to do it?
What do y'all have there is different? I watched it go from volunteer and we ran a fire department. Now we're getting $2 million in tax dollars and you're still asking.
Well, you might want to address that to the staff after the meeting.
Perfect.
All right, so that's everybody on
No answer on that one?
the phone.
Go, you can go visit the staff, they'll be able to help
Didn't you say earlier that you're the attorney and you can answer?
you. No, I
what you
can
said
answer some
earlier.
questions if you direct them to.
Okay, well, I'd like to say
that
this.
question.
Why, when every time I've ever gone to bigger meetings than this, there's a sign-up sheet at the front. I showed up 15 minutes earlier and I looked around, I didn't see a sign-up sheet. Where was the sign-up sheet?
Yeah, I too would like to make, like some questions answered, have the opportunity to sign up.
I just like to speak, I don't care about questions. If you can't answer a question, that's fine, and I'm a little bit, I'm taking different on your this one up there, but that's okay. When it citizens to speak time, people can have an exchange if you ask a simple question. You just presented a budget. We have the right to ask about that budget.
But this is to speak for or against the proposed tax rate. I think we all know that that's not going to be the tax rate.
When you want us to be better informed about the budget?
How long have we been working on this budget? Y'all been working on this budget? Started in July of last year, of this year, and the whole plan.
Every July, we said we would have
So there hasn't been.
meetings in July.
And I'll be out of here. I got one question. From what I've understood, this was formed in 2016. Is that correct? Can you answer that at least?
Yes, I believe.
Okay. Is anybody on this board elected?
They're appointed by the county commissioners court.
They go by they go by, I know the county commissioners may suggest somebody, but who's informing them of who they should suggest?
Yes, Commission make a decision. There's an interview process. There's an interview process. There is an application you have to fill out. There is personal financial statements. There is criminal background checks. There's all that stuff.
Okay, so I just want to say this, whether it's a question or not. My understanding so far, and what I've read in the news and what I see here tonight, number one is there was a tax rate proposed that was a lot higher. Evidently, and I'm sorry I didn't come to the hearing last time, people showed up, and now all of a sudden the tax rate's gone to something a little bit more palatable, but that was simply because budgets weren't understood, even though you just said they've been working on it for a while. Number two, my understanding is under contracted service, it seems to me still you pay substantially less for the contracted services than what this proposal will be. Is that correct? Can you even say yes or no to that?
I don't know the answer to that. You're free to go ask them that question.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, okay? And then the last thing I'll say is two ambulances. Okay, so I beg to ask this. What was the major thing wrong with your contracted services that makes y'all go this way to begin with? There must have been something to make you want to go this way. Or do you just want to be hometown, look at the what is the biggest thing that made you go pay less for the same amount? Complained about the quality. I've used it once, it was perfect. So I just want to know, what was the big thing that all of a sudden makes you want to take on this thing that really here tonight you don't represent, you have a really good handle on it now or in the future?
I believe that was a question.
Yeah, it means
Can we answer that?
We can't answer questions.
Justice.
Did you just say you can't answer questions?
Yeah.
Y'all have directed some factual questions that I give a factual response to under the law. I've directed y'all to staff who may be able to help you more with how they got to the budget, okay?
Well, I'll rephrase it. In all these statements that have been made in the paper and covering these meetings, that's one thing that's never been stated. The history of this thing is a little bit stated, this and that, what the rates are, which is now being changed, whatever. But there's never been anything that I've read, and I read that paper every week, that says, this is why we want to change things. But at the base of that is, you've got a pretty good service from what I can understand at this rate, and now you're going to balloon to this, but there's no explanation of it. What is the reason? What's the benefit? You know, when I want to change something in my life or my investments, first thing I'm looking for is the benefit. What's the risk versus the benefit? I see a lot of risk, no benefit.
I don't know if most people disagree with it. Just out of curiosity, why would you call this meeting if you can't answer questions?
It's a public hearing. Citizens
you can't
can make
answer it.
comments. That's correct. That's what the law says.
So meeting last week, you couldn't answer, this week you can't answer.
So I have
That's what I
one more
just said.
question.
But
How many-
you have these people you can talk to after the meeting. You have those people you can talk to after the meeting. And maybe they'll get you some of the answers to some of these questions that you have. It's to speak for or against the proposed tax rate.
Council, can you give us a statute number for that?
Yeah, it's chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, and specifically it is, and we pull it up. Section 551.042 of the Texas Government Code. And
I'll ask a
then-
question.
To me personally, if you're gonna have a public hearing, the word public means that we're here, right? But if we can't ask questions, I don't understand what's the benefit of having a meeting. Why are we here? If we
The public
can't ask
hearing
questions?
is under the statute, under the Texas Tax Code, Chapter 26, for you to speak for or against the proposed tax rate.
That's all we're doing.
Yes, sir. That's what it says.
Thank you. So another question. If each one of us goes to them and talks to them, how does the rest of the community know what the answer was?
Set out, we'll talk about trying to put something on the website for you.
Troy?
My last question. Yeah, my last question is, how many of the people on the board and involved here were also on the board and involved the other 2 times it failed?
Castroville or Devine?
Castroville or Devine?
They were on boards, so they were
Members and
employees.
involvement?
So actually, when will there actually be a meeting where y'all can answer questions? That's what I would like to know.
Under the law, and I'm sorry, I know this sounds anti-democratic, you go talk to your legislators, under the law, it's, you get to watch the work, you don't get to participate in the work of the governing body. When you ask questions, you can send in questions to be answered, you can talk to your commissioner and ask one of them and have those questions answered. You can show up to the meetings and listen to the budget discussions and all that stuff. I'm sorry, that's just the way the law is written.
So does that say there won't be a meeting where y'all can actually answer questions? Or?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's the law.
Lots simpler, a lot easier.
Okay. All right.
Why don't we lower the rate and get more ambulances from physicians? Yes. So that'd be the same rate. We have all that money to make. All that sales tax money coming in. Why did we go for a bid? About for comparison, so we know what we're doing.
What actual number on the agenda are we on?
We're on item number 2.
So you never called the meeting to order or established a quorum. Then number 2 is citizen comments. That's an agenda item. The public hearing isn't until 4.
Correct.
So why are you saying that you're receiving comments for the public hearing for the tax, but yet you're saying we're on item number 2, citizen comments? Citizen comments at any meeting could be about anything on this agenda.
Correct.
And you don't have to answer.
And that's where it came up from the sign-in sheet right here. That's what we went to do first.
That nobody can find. So I'm from the city of Natalia, I'm the city administrator, and I just have some questions because we have a legal binding interlocal agreement on property that the city of Natalia gave you all, where we will provide free water and sewer for you to build this EMS center, okay, where we're supposed to be receiving updates on the progress of anything from the get-go, from jump. Within 6 months, we're supposed to have design, all this stuff. I've heard it's 0. So while you're discussing your budget, I didn't hear anything in your budget about this, so I'm just curious.
Not in there. I raised the tax after they did it.
Well, the thing is, when you guys approached the city of Natalia, you should have then thought about these things. We gave you this property with this idea of what was presented to us, and now things are changing. So, like, you have money to go buy ambulance, which don't get me wrong, that's a wonderful service to the community, but why are we giving you free water and sewer? And nobody's reporting to us anything at all, 0, nothing. I would think that things like this should be discussed in your budget.
I guess we have to ask Jason for an answer for that too. Just ask him.
So, sir, can you answer the question that was asked earlier? Why are we trying to change the system? Is that impossible? You can't answer that. You guys can answer that? Can you guys answer that? I'm asking, as a citizen, that you're looking at soaking me for money, and to create a public good, and public goods economically are not used wisely.
Let's do this.
So the question is, let me finish. The question is, why did we decide to change? And that's pure curiosity. Why did we decide to change the system? Is there a problem with the old system? So that's a question I have for you guys. If there's something wrong, then we need to know that. But if there's not something wrong, what the heck are we doing this for?
Okay, so everybody who signed up for citizen comment has spoken and more. Now I would suggest that we go into the public hearing.
So you're not going to answer the question?
Again, don't talk to
Can you
me.
guys answer the question?
I propose that we take a vote on who wants to know the answer to that question, and can you just answer it for all of us to know?
Y'all are getting into an open meeting act violation, please.
Wait, so we haven't called the meeting to order?
It's been called to order. It's called to order. We did the pledge, all that stuff.
Understand you're asking us to pay a lot of money for something that we never asked for. But if there's a good reason for it, then we need to know that. And I mean that honestly. If there's a good reason for this to happen, then we need to know that. You got to articulate that to us. You guys owe that to us as the people who are going to foot the bill as to why this is a good idea.
And what's wrong with what we have now?
And if we're paying the taxes, we're your boss. Maybe y'all shouldn't make as much money as you want.
We don't get paid.
They're probably not going to get any money.
We don't get paid for this, man.
But the point is, I mean, there's some decisions were made.
This is our payment, right?
Decisions were made. I'm trying to get the decisions were made that way.
I pay taxes, Steve, sorry about it.
Go to the public hearing so we can ask.
Yes. Well, you can't ask at the public hearing. You speak for or against the proposed tax rate.
Again, I am willing to stay after the meeting and answer as many questions.
Can we just close the meeting and all of us ask our questions while we have you here?
No, because there's other business that we need to take.
They gotta vote on that. They gotta get it done.
Raise our salary.
We can do.
Don't realize what it looks like here.
Yeah, it looks.
You've got to realize.
I know, but it's still a public hearing. So you're going to open the public hearing so we can let them have.
Council, I can't find public hearing. Sorry.
The public hearing is in the tax section.
Well, you gave us the statute. You have a copy of it?
Okay, so public hearing on adoption of the district's proposed tax rate of 0.0785 per $100 valuation, consisting of a separately debt rate of
Just so everybody knows again, the proposed tax rate was 0.785, okay? That's not what the budget is based on. That's why the budget was discussed first. It's now based on 0.0496, which is less than last year's tax rate, okay? So they're going to have a public hearing on the 0.785, but not until we get to the adoption part. So this is your chance to speak for it. I know where most of you are standing on this, but we're going to go through the process one more time. It's not to answer questions, it's for you to speak for or against the proposed tax rate.
Council, we don't want, none of us want to vote for something we don't understand or agree with, solely based on the fact that we don't get to ask questions about what's going on because we get the brick wall over here. So I have still yet to find it. And it says that in a public hearing, you cannot ask questions. Does it say that somewhere?
Yes. It says that,
I'd love to see it.
I sent you, and right here in 2606A, B, yeah, A, at the hearing, the governing body must afford adequate opportunity for proponents and opponents of the tax increase to present their views.
It says in a public hearing, setting, that's public hearing.
Right, and we're coming to that next.
Oh, okay, because that's not talking about a public hearing, that's talking about a regular council meeting.
No, this is talking about a public hearing. Notice hearing on and vote on tax increase. A public hearing required by section 2605 may not be held before the 5th day, blah, blah, blah. The hearing must be on a weekday, that is not a public holiday, must be held inside the boundaries of the unit, and at the hearing, the governing body must afford adequate opportunity for proponents and opponents of the tax increase to present their views.
There you go. That means a lot more than yes or no. You want to hear my view?
And that's what the public hearing's for. So we'll just try to take it in order and make you raise your hand and be recognized.
So if we oppose it, what does that mean?
It means you're against it.
No, I
You're
mean,
telling them
in
that.
respect to putting in this new system. That's all I need. So if I'm against it, we still get the new system. And if I'm for it, we still get the new system. Is that
Well,
correct?
that's also on the agenda tonight too to be discussed. So. Okay, so let's go to item 4, the public hearing, and we'll see. It's 3 minutes.
Okay, public hearing on the adoption of the proposed tax rate of 0.0785 per $100 valuation, consisting of a separately debt rate of $0 per $100 valuation, separately adopted maintenance operations rate of 0.785 per $100 valuation.
So you have to read that because that was in the paper?
Yeah.
And so that's not the tax rate?
No.
So where on here does it show the new tax rate? You know?
It's whatever they can adopt. Again, it's a proposed tax rate. This is the tax rate that has been proposed. They can adopt lower. They can't adopt higher than what they proposed without starting the whole process over.
I bet they don't want to do that.
No, I don't think anybody does.
I don't know. Anybody else? Against the tax rate.
So again, does anybody else want to stand up for the public hearing?
Well, I'm really wondering why we have 2 ambulances. Like the other guy said, why couldn't we get 2 more or 3 more? Considering the budget you have, that you're asking us for, getting 5 would still be less than what you're asking for. And times are still getting over COVID, and times are hard. There's a lot of people that can't even pay for their medicine. I'm part of the Thrift Store Hospital. We pay for a lot of medicine because people can't afford it. And here we're trying to tax more people out of their homes. And it really is, if you go higher. Why not stay with something that works? That we know works. And it gives us more access. This doesn't make any sense. And I read the paper, I didn't know about this. I saw Jerry and Heather's. And that's how, and I volunteered with Viola. I knew nothing. And I owned 2 properties and it was bankrupt me, basically.
That may be factual stuff.
Anybody else? Yes.
I'm going to go back to, I understand that you want to set the tax rate where it is currently, but that's because you have a set of numbers that you're adjusting on a daily basis. You can't provide the same numbers that you provided in the last meeting. The 1.68 million in collections, that number has no history to back that up. So if you become short in collections, you're going to have to come back to us to get that money. I'm against the plan because you've got, again, you have the money to put 5 ambulances on today and solve the problem of the community. Instead, you decided to go with this crazy amount and you can't even justify when you float these numbers out. I mean, it's very unprofessional. You're talking about $2 million worth of money and you daily are changing those numbers.
We don't want this. We just
My votes no, even though you're going to go with the current rate, because the game plan is set to fail.
I vote no, and we're gonna have a lot of people upset with y'all sitting up there and thinking y'all. Some of these board members are gonna be replaced. The rest of us down here are struggling, and you're making in 100,000, 60,000.
It ain't funny. Let the lady talk about that.
We're not.
Hey, you're laughing.
We're not getting paid.
me. I'm talking to you. Are you getting paid for this? No, they weren't. Why are you looking at me? Don't. It's a false statement.
This is what's wrong.
Make the statement. You know that.
Please, follow the
Everybody sit there and smirk. But you got to do what you want to do. Everybody here votes no. You're still going to do it. Yeah, it's the same problem. Is this the question part? I'm not asking another question.
I got a motion made second. We're going to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say
And you're offering us nothing to trust.
I guess I didn't ask the question.
They just closed the public hearing.
Oh, they just closed the public hearing?
I have a question, Mayor. They just closed the public hearing.
I'm not sure. Why not sure you trust these people when they decide you so just to be here?
Exactly. Why not trust you?
Again, I'll be glad to speak to you after.
No, I look forward to
Yes,
it.
I will.
I do. Because the trust is not there.
Nope, let's go to 6 and let's go into a closed meeting.
We do not want to.
Lower the tax rate.
Actually, just adopt the tax rate. Go ahead and open that up, Mr. President.
Okay, so need to discuss, take action on the tax rate.
I move to approve a tax rate of .0496.
Got a motion and a second. George. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
I didn't hear the one. Yeah. Did you vote? I didn't hear a thing. Didn't hear the thing.
Do anybody ever need any training on Robert's Rules of Order other than the attorney?
Yeah, Kalahari Resort.
So we just had a vote for four in favor of the 0496. Is that in yours?
For the 40496.
Let's go ahead. Let's go to the attorney.
Okay, discussion and take action on recession of notice of termination of agreement of Brandon.
Say it louder so they can hear us.
Discussion and action on recession of notice of termination of agreement for ambulance and emergency medical services between Medina County Emergency Medical Services, Emergency Service District Number 4 and Bluebird Medical Enterprise LLC, doing business as Allegiant Mobile Health, and authorizing the appropriate district officers and officials to take actions on the necessary.
Okay, so motion going into a closed meeting.
So you're not going to let us talk about this either?
No, we're going to go into closed meeting and discuss the law first. Okay, so announce the time. Mr. President.
Going into session at 8:06.
Under 551.071 Texas Government Code. Say that.
Under 551 Texas Government Code.
Yeah, don't forget, we're neighbors. I know you don't get paid, but the decision may be better when you consider your neighbors.
Oh, you're going to be back? I mean, I got a ton of questions.
Now that the chief is
Oh, yeah.
So we're back in session at 8:25.
When did we go in?
We'll see. Yeah, 2007. Yeah.
Can I make a motion? I want to make a motion to proceed as deliberated. To authorize the attorney. To authorize the attorney. To proceed as deliberated.
Posted as deliberated.
Proceed as deliberated.
Proceed as deliberated.
Yeah.
We don't know what you're saying.
Dan, what's that mean?
What it means is they've authorized me, chief, and the commissioner to go visit with Allegiance. And, you know, you don't telegraph your punch, so they've authorized me, the three of us, to proceed as deliberated as to the relationship with Allegiance. Thank you.
Are we going at the posted rate of 0.7?
No, we're worried about the 0496.
Okay, I can't hear.
Yeah, I know. At least we got a cool breeze. I was hoping to.
So the next regular meeting is September 11th, here at 7 o'clock. Everybody good?
So adjourned.
So I call it adjourned.
You know, it's the anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah, it is.
They're not Wednesday.
Neither was
September 11th, Wednesday.
Neither was
Yes,
the cancellation.
Sorry.
They've authorized me to proceed as deliberated based on that agenda item. So we want to buy this piece of property and authorize the attorney to negotiate up to $20,000 because they call and say, talk to me until you hit $20,001. So we authorize the attorney to proceed with it.
To negotiate.
They're not letting it go.
We're taking all of your comments, we're taking all of your
Okay, so
comments.
it's not rescind or not rescind, it's to negotiate.
It's to discuss the whole thing, whether there's a decision involved or they continue down this path. I don't think we're going to get fine ambulances for $424,000. $535. I don't think we're going to get that, but we're going to find out.
It's kind of like a table, but
Get through all the options. Make sense?
What happens to the ambulance is already bought?
They can use it.
The leasing.
Or we can sell it. If that's the route they go. We don't know. Thank y'all.